Welcome to Group 1 presentation on imperialism in different part of the world, where the most powerful nations usurp resources from the weak one. Very evil act and painful encounter.
I will begin by defining the term imperialism. Imperialism is when a powerful country controls over weaker regions, force or influence. The imperialism has three main aspects. The first aspect is the political aspect, economic aspect and cultural aspect. I'm also going to give a brief background of imperialism in Asia. European countries, that is US and Japan, sought to control. Britain took control of India. China suffered after Opium War. Japan modernized and as an imperial power. Other European powers colonized Southeast Asia, while US took control over Philippines. In Latin America, Spain and Portugal colonized in 15th century. After independence, the economic dependency and instability followed. The US emerged as a dominant power with Marine doctrine controlling territories like Cuba and Panama Canal. Foreign companies, that is United Fruits Company, dominated economics, leading to inequality and unrest.
Doing the early imperialism part, that includes British imperialism in India, Japanese imperialism in Indochina. Yes. So firstly, I'll begin with early imperialism. It was caused by causes such as economic motives, where it involves establishment of trade routes, and there was also control of valuable resources. Another motive that was there and was leading to early imperialist motives, where there was spread of Christianity, hence conversion of indigenous population. And the last one, the strategic motives that involved controlling strategic locations through military and trading posts. In early imperialism, there was cost, and the cost involved both Portuguese presence, and in the Portuguese presence, there was establishment of trading posts such as India, Malacca, and Macau, where they exhibited control of Goa, Malacca, and Macau. In addition, there was also Spanish colonization. You get to see colonization of Philippines and establishment of Manila as a trading hub. Lastly, there was involvement of Dutch East India Company, where they dominated in the spice trade and made headquarters in Batavia and a trading post in India, Ceylon, and Japan. The early imperialism brought impact disruption of trade networks, hence bringing economic dependency on European power. Secondly, there was cultural change, where there was imposition of European culture and religious beliefs. In addition, there was also economic exploitation, which led to resources being exploited for the colonizers' benefit, hence leading to poverty and hardship of the indigenous population. In addition to, there was also social changes, where it was exhibited by introduction of Western education, also the emergence of new social classes. Lastly, there was resistance movements, where there was various forms of resistance, including armed uprising and also protest against the colonial rule. So, British imperialism in India, the causes were as follows. There was economic motives, where there was control of trade and resources, and also establishment of monopoly. Secondly, there was political and strategic motives, where it involves expansion of British influence and control. The cause involved British East India Company, were initially focused on trade, expanded the influence through military conquest and alliance. For instance, there was the Battle of Plassey, which marked British control over Bengal. Secondly, there was economic change that that includes introduction of cash crop, hence decline of traditional agriculture. Another one, there was cultural changes where there was imposition of British cultural and religious beliefs, hence conversion to Christianity. Okay, so lastly, in there was resistance movement such as Indian Rebellion of 1857, which led to direct British rule. Okay, so we go to French imperialism in Indochina. The causes were as follows. There was economic motives where there was exploitation of resources and establishment of overseas markets. Secondly, there was strategic motives, which includes expansion of French influence in Southeast Asia. There was also cultural motives where there was spread of French culture and Christianity. The cause of this imperialism in Indochina involved military campaigns such as conquest of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Secondly, there was also colonial rule, where there was establishment of plantation, mines, and infrastructure. Thirdly, there was imposition of French systems such as the education system, the legal system, administration practice. On the other hand, there was also impacts of this, where there was economic exploitation leading to exploitation of resources such as rubber, rice, and also taxation and later forced labor.
Hello, I'm Maureen. I'm going to take you through the Japanese imperialism. Japanese imperialism began in the late 19th century with the Meiji Restoration to modernize Japan and expand their influence. It first conquered Taiwan in 1895, which became the Japan's first overseas colony, which led to infrastructure development, but culture and the language was imposed. It also conquered Korea in 1910, which was annexed by the Japan. Koreans faced cultural assimilation and economic exploitation. The Japanese also conquered Manchuria in 1931, which was invaded, leading to the puppet states of the Manchukuo Second Sino-Japanese War in 1937, marked by the brutal cities killing hundreds of and thousands of the Japanese civilians. This led to World War II expansion, where Japanese occupied the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaya, Burma, promoting the Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere for regional dominance. I'll also take you through the resistance and independence movement of the Japanese imperialism, which started in Korea in March 1st, 1919, where mass protests against the Japanese rule, later suppressed by the influence independence efforts. In China, the united resistance using the guerrilla warfare and the large-scale battling, which contributed to the Japan's defeat in World War II. In South Asia, nationalist movement resisted Japanese rule. In Indonesia, the Japanese initially supported the nationalists but faced resistance due to harsh rules. Independence was declared in 1945. In Vietnam, they fought Japanese occupation and later resisted French colonial rule. Spanish and Portuguese colonization. Spanish and Portuguese colonization began in the late 15th century, with explorers like the Columbus leading to colonies in Caribbean, Mexico, Central and South Africa. Economic system forced indigenous labor in mines and plantation. There was also population decline, where European diseases, e.g. the smallpox and forced labor, caused massive indigenous death. I'll take you through the economic exploitation, where resource extraction in Spain and Portugal exploited silver, gold, and agricultural wealth for European benefit. There is also plantation economy, which forced indigenous and African slave labor produced cash crops like sugars, coffee, and tobacco. And lastly, It led to long-term impact, where economic dependence and underdevelopment left local population impoverished. I'll welcome the next presenter.
Welcome, my name is Franklin. I'm going to deal with imperialism in Latin America. As we said earlier, imperialism talk about the refers to the political, economic, and cultural influence or control exerted by uh, foreign powers, particularly European countries and the United States, over the nation of Latin America from the late 19th century to 20th century. So, the influence often manifested in various forms, including military intervention, economic dominance, political manipulation. So, we are going to see the European colonialism, that is in the year 1492 to 1800. Spain and Portugal were the first imperial powers in Latin America. Their colonization led to profound social, economic, and cultural changes. So, main key features in the European colonialism, we are going to see about conquest and enslavement. So, there were several conquests from the European colonialism. For instance, Aztec Empire in the year 1521, and Francisco Pizarro defeated the Inca Empire. Then another key feature is encomienda system. This is a system of forced labor that exploited indigenous people. Another feature is resource extraction. Resource extraction talks about the Spain and Portugal extracted vast amount of gold, silver, easy Potosi mines in Bolivia. Another key feature is cultural suppression. So they were suppressing various cultures. For example, the Catholic Church played a key role in converting indigenous population and erasing native traditions. Could suppress their cultures so that they can adopt their European cultures in areas where they conquered. Finally, we have the Mexico independence, that is in the year 1810 to 1821, led by figures like Miguel Hidalgo and Jose Maria Morelos. Finally, we're going to talk about US imperialism and the Monroe Doctrine. So after independence, Latin America faced neocolonialism, where foreign powers still control their economies and politics. So the Monroe Doctrine of 1823 declared by the US to prevent European recolonization. So this doctrine was declared by the US to prevent other European recolonization. So in reality, it allowed the US to expand its influence in Latin America. So then we have the economic imperialism. We are talking about the political, economic, and social. So economic imperialism in the 18th century, the British investments control Latin America trade, railroads, mining, even this company that was manufacturing the fruits, United Fruit Company. Finally, we are going to talk about the political one, that is military intervention. So Spanish-American War, the US took Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Philippines from Spain. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to welcome the next presenter.
I'm Abby, and I'm going to take you through the US imperialism in Latin America. The United States expanded its influence in Latin America through the invention and the policies. In US, we had the setting of the stages for the US involvement. For example, the Spanish-American War in 1898 marked US control. And then we have in the early 20th century, the US used the dollar diplomacy, investing in Latin America infrastructure, including like the Panama, to secure the economic and strategic interests. The US effort to maintain stability and protect the investment in this in this diplomacy, investing in the Latin that was in 1898. We also have, on the part of it, we have the resistance and independent movements. Latin America resistance took various forms, inspired by the American and the French revolutions. We also had the independent movement in the 19th century, so the leaders like Hidalgo of Mexico and the Simons of South America, liberating the nations. Brazil independence of 1822 was peaceful, declared by the Prince Pedro, where the resistance to US imperialism emerged in the 20th century, which the Cuban Revolution of 1959 overthrowing the US PAC regime, significantly altering. We also had the cultural imperialism. In cultural imperialism imposed the colonizers' language, religions, education, and reshaping the local identities. Missionaries' activities suppressed the indigenous beliefs, while the Western education devalued the local knowledge, that is, creating the elite class aligned with the colonizers. We also had the traditional art, music, and customs were often suppressed, reinforced social hierarchies. Despite of many communities resisted blending the indigenous and impose their cultures. That's the end of my discussion. I welcome the next presenter.
I'm Kivutuli Rasoa, and I'm going to present on the age of imperialism. The age of imperialism refers to the period from the late 19th century to early 20th century when major powers expanded their empires through colonization and conquest, marked by intense competition among European powers such as the United States and Japan, mainly for dominance. Social Darwinism, it was applied by Darwin's idea of natural selection to human societies, which was used to rationalize imperial conquest. Economic factors were the major driving force behind imperialism, with industrialized nations seeking new markets, raw materials, and investment opportunities to address overproduction. The concept of the white man's burden framed imperialism as a moral duty to civilize primitive people. The case study I'm going to present on the notable imperial figures, and here we have number one, Alexander the Great, from the year 356 to 323 BC. He was a king of Macedonia who created one of the largest empires spreading Greek culture. And number two, we have Julius Caesar, 44 BC, Roman general who expanded the Roman Republic, but his rule led to conflict and his assassination. Number three, we have Napoleon Bonaparte from 1769 to 1821. He was a French military leader who expanded France's empire, but his invasions led to downfall through revolt. And number four, we have Hammurabi, year 1810 to 1750, a Babylonian king who created one of the first legal codes and expanded his empire through conquest, establishing strong governance. I'm going to welcome the next presenter.
I'm Kipchir Chirweldon. I'm going to take you through the conclusion part. So, in conclusion, the imperialism in Asia, Latin America had profound and lasting effects, shaping the political, economic, and social landscapes of both regions. Driven by economic interests, strategic ambitions, and ideological justification, European and American powers imposed their control through military conquest, economic exploitation, and political dominance. In Asia, British, French, Dutch, American, and Japanese imperialism disrupted local governance and economies while introducing an infrastructure education. Similarly, in Latin America, U.S. interventions and economic imperialism perpetuated dependency and inequality, even after independence from European colonial rule. Resistance movements ranging from armed rebellions to nationalist and intellectual campaigns played a crucial role in challenging foreign domination, ultimately paving the way for independence and self-determination. The long-term impacts of imperialism remain visible today as former colonies continue to grapple with economic disparities, political instability, and cultural transformation. While imperialism brought some modernization, its legacy is largely one of exploitation, resistance, and enduring struggles for sovereignty. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you.